Well. Welcome to the Shark-a-Doodle-Doo show, the greatest shark radio, talk radio, whatever you want to call it, anything goes. Right here at the Clark the Shark Show, from the golden, fabulous EIB Sharkerphone. It's not just a microphone. When Sharky's talking into it, it becomes an EIB Sharkerphone, excellence in shark broadcasting. And of course, I'm talking about one of my favorite bands, The Fall, live at the Witch Trials. Now, this album is like their debut, and everyone says this is so great, it's so good, it's so solid. And honestly, me, Clark the Shark, I like this album, but I'm not super crazy about it. For me, The Fall would get a lot better later after this album. Sure they would. Come on, you guys. This is definitely a critical darling album. It's punk rock. For me, I like the jam and more than this. Come on, you guys. So do you. The Sex Pistols, probably more melodic and funner than this album, but this album is definitely really interesting. You got effects on the guitars, and the drumming's really good on this. That's the thing about this album that made me want to buy this back at Go Boy Records in Redondo. And it was a hard album to find. I finally found this album. It was really in bad shape, but I think I bought it for like $2. And then I took it home, and it did play, but it just sounded awful. Eventually I would get the CD of this, of course. And but I listened to this. It's if you like the Sex Pistols, the Jam, the Clash, all that stuff, this is like that, but a little different. It's almost like this is, I don't know, maybe like psychedelic punk, or I could see where the guys in Bad Religion, Mr. Brett, he might have liked this album by The Fall. Now, The Fall would get a lot more commercial, and I don't know if commercial's the right word, but they would definitely get a lot more radio friendly. And I'm going to review all those albums, the subsequent albums after this one by The Fall. This is an important band to indie alternative punk. Definitely at KXLU in Los Angeles, they still play The Fall 2023. And I love it when they have their Frank Zappa, Zappadan. It's kind of like Ramadan for Zappa, Zappadan. But they should really have the Fall Dan too. I mean, where they just play nothing but The Fall. Because this album, you guys, it may not be the most melodic or atmospheric or super great album, but I do find myself listening to this. And once I'm in the bathtub and I got the CD of this on, I'm gonna play it, I'm gonna. And I always think of this thing on the cover as like a shark, like this thing here. I'm always thinking there's a tree and grass or a field, and this is a big sharky or something like that. I don't know, man, but it's probably a tombstone or a church, or I don't know, dude. The witch trials, where they're all putting the live at the witch trials. This is like a place where like Alec Baldwin would either shoot someone by accident at this little shark church stake where they're coming to hang the witches. Or I don't know. It just reminds me of like an evil little sharky swimming towards this tree on the cover of The Fall, live at the witch trials. But yeah, you guys, this is way back, 70s album, and It gets all 5 stars. I don't know if it deserves 5. It's more like a 4. I mean, this is the cover. I know, I know this one. But the other one, I know it too, because they had it at Go Boy. And I bought it. And, I don't think it deserves 5 stars, you guys. Frightened is, pretty killer. But you really get a feel, crap rap, rebellious, no Christmas for John Quays. You just get this generic punk rock thing, and you're always getting the feeling that this band could be better, and that this band is going to get better. But there is definitely something interesting and good about this album, especially the drumming. Mother, sister. And, I really like the song Industrial Estate, all 2 minutes of it. Probably my favorite song on side 1. And side 2, gets much better. Underground Medicine. A Sharky needs some underground medicine, you guys. And of course, by Smith, man, he's fucking a legend in the punk rock world. 2 Steps Back. It's also, you get this British, this British punk rock, and this band, The Fall, really for that Brit scene, that pop thing that came in the 80s, the early to mid and late 80s and 90s. Oasis and all those bands later on, they owe a lot to this, The Fall. This album here, very garage punk rock, but it is leaning in that direction of atmospheric, stuff. Live at the Witch Trials, you guys know that song. Not very long, but very, very punk. And Futures and Past. That's like Sharky me, There's not much of a future for the Shark and not much of a past. And of course, music scene. A long song, but a classic, It's kind of a parody making fun of everything, but it's so fucking good. Of course, it's the best song on the album. But, you'll come away from this album like me, he's saying it could have been way better. The whole thing, it puts off this generic punk rock vibe, and at the same time it's very chunky and meaty. There's some meat and potatoes, interesting punk and garage, and all over this, you guys. The bonus tracks too. Oh, Psycho Mafia, I know that one. That's about Sharky. I'm like a one-man Psycho Mafia. I'm not really gonna do the bonus tracks from The Fall, but you guys get into the album, get into this one to learn where they began, of course. And I had the luxury of buying these albums. I had Go Boy Records, Marky Smith, legendary punk, indie, underground, alternative, garage. I mean, of course, this guy, I'm not even gonna, he's a punk legend. All 4 of them, and I don't know who Yvonne was, but the keyboards, are important on this album. And there's effects on the guitars. This drummer, Carl Burns, great drums. And it goes right with all these songs, you guys, by The Fall. This punk rock garage, underproduced, just legendary punk. But, I say it's so legendary, it's so great. But honestly, you guys, I would rather listen to The Jam or The Clash than The Fall, at least this album. But not later on, when The Fall start writing these really catchy, interesting songs on their future albums. There is no better band. And in some weird way, this almost seems like those bands in Seattle, in the late 80s. They don't really talk about it. They say they're into the Pixies, but you definitely listen to The Fall, especially this album. and you can hear where so many Seattle grunge and punk bands were into the fall, and maybe not giving them enough talking about it. And of course, Los Angeles punk bands, come on, we all love the fall. Live at the Witch Trials, you guys. Certainly me, Clark the Shark. But for me, I found myself back in the day, I would listen to this album, 1982, 83, 84, but I would listen to the Clash, Give Him Enough Rope, more than this, and the Jam with Paul Weller. For me, the Jam really is the Britpop foundation, you guys. But the fall, for British UK punk rock, certainly, you guys, at Go Boy Records in down in Redondo Beach in 1985, I would see the other kids buying albums, or 1987 or 88. And, The Fall was an album you were looking for at all those record stores around the South Bay and Los Angeles and up in Hollywood. Oh, there's that one record store. I forgot what it's called, you guys, but I would always go there up in Hollywood. And this one in San Pedro, too. Legendary. It's legendary. If Clark the Shark from the Greenhouse Effect was going, any record store I went to, you guys, whether it's Peanut Records or Zed Records, or Alternative Groove down at Hermosa with Mark Theodore, theologian. If Clark the Shark went there, it's legendary, you guys. And they'll all of them, they're like, oh, Clark the Shark came to my store. He sold his albums and he bought albums here. And some of them are like, oh, Clark would come here and he never bought anything. He would just sell his Greenhouse Effect. But let me tell you, you guys, if you hear that, that's not true. Because me, just like this Sharky on the cover of The Fall, I always call this a shark, but it's like a steak for witches burned at the stake. Or now I think of it like that little place, Rust, where Alec Baldwin just shoots people. The Fall, Witch Trials. Live at them, everyone. Clark the Shark, I was there, you guys. Believe me. 1979, a punk rock year. These guys are a little behind punk, They missed out on all the fun. But certainly when you talk about punk and alternative and garage and indie, come on, you guys, you got to talk about the Fall. If KXLU is having one of their bona fide play fests, they're playing the Fall and all those other Brit bands, of course, but you got to check in with Clark the Shark first, because I was there. I was just, a little kid buying these albums down at Go Boy. And these albums, of course, would inspire me to play music, and the whole bit, and these people in this band, they're important, you guys. They are all important people, and these songs are important. It's maybe not the best fall album. I'm going to review those albums that come next, where they just get better and better. But certainly this stands as an artifact and a beginning. It's like the album that launched the Fall, you guys. Just an amazing, important band. Of punk rock, indie, alternative, you name it, grunge. They are all influenced by the Fall, and certainly me, Clark the Shark, at 1-800-449-8255. I want you to buy this album, you guys, at Spotify, iTunes, wherever you can find the Fall. Go to their website and buy it direct, and buy anything you can, any merchandise. And when these guys get more commercial, more merch, if you will, buy that too. And tell them you learned it right here at the Clark the Shark Show. 1-800-449-8255 from the fabulous, amazing, golden EIB Sharkerphone, where you just got the most important and only review of the Fall live at the Witch Trials that you will ever need. The most accurate review, you guys. And listen to KXLU if you're in Los Angeles. Drive around in your car. Don't really listen to K-Rock anymore because that's just become crap. Or any other station, really. I tell people, keep listening to KXLU, even in 2023, because it just plays funny, irreverent, amazing underground, punk, indie, alternative, important cutting edge music that you guys out there, you got to hear. And you tell them you heard it from Clark the Shark. And I'm out of here, people. Peace.